Ross, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, Nitin. So for all those people who are tuning in live, we have the wonderful Nitin Manchanda. Sadly, some technical issues today, and am I right in thinking, Nitin, your computer and your Wi-Fi have both went kaput, but the phone is working, and that's what you're on today?
Yeah, indeed. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And today we have a very special guest from the UK, who's Ross. And this is another episode of SEO Live Audit with him. And he's a rock star in UK, though he doesn't pronounce my name correctly, but still I like him. And it's gonna be fun talking to him today. And I'm really looking forward to this episode. And now I don't want to introduce this dude because he doesn't pronounce my name correctly. So I would leave it to himself. So Ross, could you please introduce yourself now?
I will indeed, Nitin. Your second name, it's like Manchego, Manchester, something like that. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, that's a lovely introduction. I've never been called an awesome rock star before, unless I'm talking to myself in the mirror when I'm brushing my teeth in the morning. For everyone who's watching, my name's Ross Tavendale. I run a little SEO agency in London called Type A Media. And today we're going to be live auditing a bunch of websites. So we've got, I'd call it the good, the bad, and the ugly of websites. So we've got some big e-commerce websites we're going to look at. We've got some kind of smaller scale blogs and food blogs and some personal stuff as well, all using the Semrush site audit tool. And we're going to jump in and use some of the kind of Google validators and things like that as well. Shall we get straight into it? Do you think, Nitin?
Well, I think before we start, I would like to know what's your favorite SEO aspect these days, and what do you think is your very favorite thing gonna be for 2018?
Right. So I've got a very controversial opinion when it comes to SEO ranking factors and things like that. So we tend to call ourselves whiter than white hat. We tend to say that we make Moz look black hat, which is obviously impossible. So I think that micro branding factor of 2018. Now, there's a bunch of people out there that have just went, "Oh Jesus, did he just say micro branding is a ranking factor?" What I mean by that is having a level of brand equity in whatever space you're operating in helps you garner links. It helps you get exposure, like the whole thing. A great example is actually our own website as an agency. We've got like micro brand and a little tiny area of SEO. And because of that, we're able to do great things like these Semrush webinars. We're getting links for no reason other than we exist. It just makes things a lot easier. So when we're building things for clients, one of the big things we do is make sure that their brand is known in their kind of sphere of influence. And it just really helps when we go to sell a news story into a journalist and they already know who we are. It really helps validate it and get us links a lot kind of easier. But that's my slightly wanky ranking factor for 2018.
That's interesting indeed. So, well, now I'm looking forward to hear some really like awesome real tips from you, and I hope there are a lot of people along with me who are waiting to hear those tips from you. So let's not waste time on chit chat anymore, and let's jump to the main topic. Yeah. So now stage is all yours, Ross. So you can acknowledge with them. Yeah, it's all yours.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to got a little thing here on some slides. We're going to jump in and out of that, and then obviously go into the SEMrush tool and also these people's websites. So Nitin, if you can jump in as people ask questions, that would be great. I don't want to I love the sound of my own voice, but if you want to jump in and interrupt, that would be great. First of all, I want to just quickly touch on methodology. So when it comes to auditing a website from a technical SEO point of view, we need to look at most important things to the least important things. Now, you'll see this picture on my screen. This is of an Asana project management board. And the way we do it in our agency is we actually take some of the most high impact errors that you can fix. So, blocked resources, 404s, duplicate titles, canonicals not working, things of that nature. And we would mark them from kind of high importance to low. And our methodology is, the first thing we look at is crawlability, so Google's ability to physically get on the site and go through all your pages. The next part being indexation. Just because they can crawl the page doesn't necessarily mean it's being indexed correctly. Viewability, when you look at your pages in the SERPs, are they coming up correctly and getting a good high click-through rate? And then we'd look at, performance things, looking at, speed and things of that nature. So high to low, and looking at that kind of basic methodology. Another thing that we tend to do, especially with large websites, is understand the templates that the website are working on. So this particular example has got the Amazon homepage right down to an Amazon product page, but in between that journey, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 pages to get to the product level. But in between that, the crawler's got all of these steps to go. So it's important that we understand each of these different template levels, because if we find SEO issues on any of them and we knock them out at a template level, you'll find you can go from thousands of issues to none very quickly. So without further ado, the big reveal. Today we're going to be auditing nestaway.com, gem1media.com, and my personal favorite is Priya's Curry Nation. Now it's like 9:30 in the morning in the UK right now, so I'm not ready for a curry, but maybe this afternoon I'm going to go get one. So first things first, we're going to go and look at Gem1 Diamond first. So these guys are a e-commerce store. So I've got the tech issues here on the left-hand side. So I'm just going to come out of this. And first of all, what I like to do is I like to, first thing, intrusive interstitials. Now, this is on desktop, so this is totally fine. But if this was on a mobile and this sort of stuff shows up, probably not great. So we want to be careful that there's nothing like that popping up and potentially causing bad UX on mobile. Anyway, when I first get to know a site, there's a couple of things that I like to do to kind of go around the houses. So I like to just get a general feel for it first before I do any auditing whatsoever. And the way I do that is I try and act like Googlebot. What's Googlebot going to do? It's probably going to go to the robots page. Okay, so this is a WordPress website with some sort of e-commerce plugin, and it's just basic robots. So there's nothing there. First thing I see, they're not linking to their sitemap in robots. That is a bit of a pity. So that's my first stop off of any audit, just to get a feel for things. Then I maybe want to have a little look and see if they've got a sitemap. They do have a sitemap. Fantastic. This looks like a sitemap index page. So what I'd like to do is just dig into that and see if actually it's working. And it is amazing. So well done. That's the first tick in the box. And once I see that, I'll then have a quick look around the site, see if there's anything that I really want to be looking in for. So again, with that bloody pop-up. If I didn't put my details in the first time, I'm not going to do it the second time. So they're an e-commerce website, so I'd quite like to see if they've got some basics on there. So, what's the first thing you think of with e-com? I think of schema product markup. So we want to go and have a little look and see if they've got that in there. Also notice that this is a kind of complex, what we'd call a kind of mega nav. So we want to see if that is a JavaScript only navigation or if it's HTML and CSS. Can the bot see it without JavaScript? Notice in here they've got some reviews, which we're going to touch on in a second. But I'm going over it a little bit too fast. So back to the Semrush interface. So this is what you see after you've kind of crawled the site straight away. Now, the big tempting thing here is to go straight into this error thing and be like, oh my God, there's 3,499, go fix them. What I actually do is skip straight into statistics, because it gives you a really nice overview of what's going on and kind of what's important on the site. So we mentioned schema.org markup. So I'd want product markup on all of those pages. So it is saying that it's finding it. It's done in micro formats, not necessarily in schema. And so half of the site has got it. Cool. That's interesting. So we probably need to look at the 50% odd of pages that don't have it. It's giving me some very interesting stuff here. So, I mean, the site's relatively clean. There's no kind of errors going on. 65% have got canonicalization. So canonicalization can really mess up your site if you do it incorrectly. So I'm going to be paying particular attention to that when I'm going into the website itself and looking for these problems. Here's a big one for me. Sitemap versus crawl pages. So there's 4,626 pages in the sitemap that we looked at just there, but it says that only 50% of them were found in the crawl. So when I see something like that, the first thing that I want to do is I want to start saying, well, you know, if Semrush found that in the crawl, what's Google doing and how's it looking in the index? So we can see there that there's 2,790 pages in the index. Interesting. You can see that right there. For those who are interested, by the way, this is a little Chrome plugin that gives you the volumes and CPC of things called Keywords Everywhere. Really recommend it. It's really good bit of kit. Okay, so I've got 2,790 pages in the index, but our crawler found 4,626 pages. That's a major problem, right? Because they've got almost double the pages on their site than Google can actually see. So half of their site is effectively invisible to Google. So not ideal. So what we want to do, first of all, is start diagnosing that and see why that might be the case. So without further ado, we go into issues. Now, for me, before we get into things like title tags and things of that nature, I want to see why the site isn't being crawled properly. And this kind of really stands out to me. So a redirect chain and a loop. So let's click into that and have a look and see what that actually means. So daisy chain redirect loops are essentially what's happening here is they're going from this URL, then so 302 is a non-permanent redirect, 301 is a permanent redirect, so temporary, permanent, 200, the site finally goes live. So if you're Googlebot, your website has got a budget, just like you get a financial budget every single month that you need to live on. Google gives your site a crawl budget, and once it's used up, it's used up. And if you're wasting it on this sort of stuff, so this site's got 45 pages with kind of 4 or more. In fact, some of them get 7. Geez, look at that. Whoa. So some of them get 7 daisy chain redirects. That is just going to absolutely annihilate your crawl budget. So one of the major things that I would start looking at is at all, and I'd be getting this out into some sort of spreadsheet, going in here, clicking the download button, getting that into a sheet and starting to play with that to understand why are you doing all these redirects? What's actually going on? It looks like it's probably some sort of error on the site that's causing it, and it's not that the webmaster in this instance has kind of done it on purpose. So with that in mind, crawl versus index, very, very important to have a look at. The next one is keyword mapping. So not something that necessarily turns up in the audit. So we see here, oh wow, did you guys just hear that chat now music coming on? That was terrifying. Or should I ask them, why is your SEO? So no, I'm not going to do that. This here, we can see keyword mapping is the kind of next issue. So when I say keyword mapping, I mean of the keywords we're targeting each page with, there is lots of weird things going on here. So this particular page, this is their home page, right? And their homepage title tag is black diamond engagement rings, black diamonds, and loose diamonds. Those are a lot of very separate keywords, and there is absolutely zero branding in there. Now, I know those SEO guys were like very into just smashing keywords absolutely everywhere. But if you're the customer, a couple of things that are wrong with this. This is how your SERP looks. So I would have brand at the front, not at the back. I know that's slightly controversial, and a single keyword target per page or topic target per page. And I'd be cutting this down because, as you can see here, so although they've smashed a bunch of keywords in there to try and rank for them, it doesn't actually matter because no one can physically see it. So I'd have a look at that in a little bit more detail. Also, when we go into, Jesus, that thing just keeps popping up. if anyone has any chat software, I don't know if this is coming through in the webinar, but it's blasting through with music every single time we open it up. Yeah, the next thing for keyword mapping, you can see here, inner pages, black diamond engagement rings, black diamonds, and loose diamonds. Well, ideally we want that title tag, that H1, and any kind of internal links and copy to be kind of similar. One of the things that you notice very quickly, it feels like the copy has not been written by someone with English as a first language, because the grammar is out and the spelling is out as well. In terms of page quality, that could be a bit of an issue. So keyword mapping being the kind of next thing I'd look at there. Intrusive mobile interstitials. Well, I suppose intrusive pretty much everything, because I think if I was to go to this, I think this thing will pop up again and terrify me. No, not that time. Everything feels very intrusive here, so I would stop, things flying out and things clicking up and stuff like that. All right, so this is kind of funny. The reviews in particular. So if we were to have a look at their reviews on the site, the first thing I noticed when I look at these is, look at all these highly attractive human beings that they've got doing all these reviews. Sarah Styles in Great Britain. I mean, she must have not only a love of black diamonds, but also she must be some sort of professional photographer. Either that or these are fake reviews. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a quick look to see if these are fake reviews by taking the lovely Sean Ford and jumping into Google Images. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reverse look up that image. Do we think there's going to be more than one Sean Ford image? Yes, there is. Surprise, surprise. In fact, they're all over the web. That's obviously a no-no. That's a pretty bad thing to be doing. So I imagine if we'd done that with all of these people, we would probably find that all of these images are indeed fake people. Not only that, all of the reviews are truncated, and if we were to be super tech SEOs, I mean, ideally that would be wrapped up in some sort of schema markup with some sort of review markup. So I've just opened up the inspect element there. It's Command-Shift-C to open that up. I'm just going to do Command-F to do find, and I'm like, I want to see item prop. So there's none there. The reason I say that is because when we look at schema.org, which is a kind of official markup language that all of the engines have agreed to, there is specific review markup that you should be putting on the site. So here's your review schema, really nice and easy. Look, so if you scroll all the way to the bottom, this is without markup. This is with microdata. You see you've got item prop coming in there. The way I prefer to do it actually is by pushing it through Tag Manager. So if you've got Tag Manager set up on your website, you can actually put all of this through the site with JSON LD. And this is how that would look. I'd recommend that you do that over anything else, because it means you don't need to hack the site, you don't need to get any developers involved, etc., etc. Anyway, that's the good old diamond site. So I'm conscious of time, we've got quite a lot to go through, so we'll just keep cracking on. Structured data. So one of the ways that I actually look for structured data is not foraging around the site code, although that is fun, like some sort of pig looking for truffles. What we'd actually do instead of looking at the site code is run it through the validator. So what we've got here is Google's structured data testing tool. Drop the URL in there, simply hit run test. So if they put it in through JSON and we can't see it immediately, oh, there we go. So we've just got someone's name. So we don't actually have any product schema whatsoever, which isn't ideal. We've just got the name of the business owner, that looks like, and also the name of the business. Ideal world, if this was not dodgy fake reviews, we would have this wrapped in review schema, and we'd have these individual products wrapped in product schema as well. And that would mean that when we are looking at when we type in natural black diamonds, things of that nature, that's going to jump up to the top and actually be displayed in the SERP itself. How's that sound so far, Nitin? Any questions coming in?
Going really good so far, and yeah, questions are coming, so you can probably continue your audit, and then I'll ask you all the questions. Yeah.
Great, excellent.
All right.
The next one is hreflang. So for those not initiated, hreflang is the markup that we put on if there is multiple languages on the site. Now, I don't know what this thing is. It must be some sort of plugin, but the functionality is really cool, but the application is really bad because it's damaging to search. So let's say if I want to click on, okay, so it's completely changed the language. It's kept the currency, but you can see here that the URL is absolutely identical. Again, if we look at the source code here, we're not going to see any hreflang because there's no other URLs. So in an ideal world, what we would have is off the kind of main root of this domain for the English content, it would be en-gb, for example. And then when we're writing all of the new content in multiple languages, we would either create an hreflang sitemap or we would map them in the header. A website with an amazing setup for if you want to go and have a look in your own time is Etihad Airways. So if we go and inspect what's going on there, we can see that there is tons and tons and tons of hreflang. Lovely. So this is how it should look for all of, I don't know if we can see that code there. So it's saying rel alternate hreflang, and here's all the different language variants. So the SEO that's worked on this clearly knew what they were doing with regards to languages. So all of these refer to one another, and you can see that through the entire site. So hats off to whoever done this because it looks brutally difficult to set that up. So that's a really good example of how your hreflang should look. Now, if you're dealing with a dev who is you find it very hard to get on with and actually get things done, what you can do is create a sitemap of the hreflang. So just the same way you would have your normal URLs, you then have your alternative ones in the same space. I can't think of it offhand, but I'm pretty sure Alida Solis has got a hreflang creator where you go put in some URLs and it spits out the kind of correct format for either your header tags or your sitemap. So Google around for that and let me know how you get on. Last thing is kind of sitemap. So we've seen that, yep, the sitemaps are there, but some kind of basic hygiene points. It's not in the robots.txt. Sadly, we don't have Search Console access for these kind of audits, so they'd be submitted one by one there. What I actually quite like to do is separate out all media. So I'd have an image sitemap as well as a normal kind of text and product sitemap as well. So that's everything for Gem 1 Diamonds. To the next one. All right, the next one is a company called Nest Away. So it's a really lovely website. It looks like it's been, they spent a lot of money on developing it. The images are really nice. So let's do my usual little visit. Pretend I am Googlebot. Right. This looks much more interesting. So they are clearly very on it. So they've disallowed things like fully furnished. I wonder why they've done that, actually. Disallowed their 404 pages. Fair enough. Because they're disallowing a ton of stuff. So I imagine a lot of this is just navigational stuff they don't want surfaced in the index. It's probably something with quite, sensitive information behind it, payments and things of that nature. Okay, cool. That's given me a good bit of information about what's going on there. Next thing I like to do is have a wee look at their sitemap just to see if they've got one. Oh, So they actually have, so they've gzipped their sitemap, but they've not gzipped it at a server. So what usually happens when you compress files on your site, you would have something called gzip on your server, which compresses the files and then serves them up, unzips them and serves them up uncompressed. It's a speed thing. This one's actually got the entire, God, let me just see if I can get this in here. Here we go. So this has got some sort of downloadable file, and when we click into the file, we've got more nested compressed files, and they're all hosted on, it looks like they're using Amazon for their hosting. I don't know if this would actually be picked up very well. So one of my first recommendations to these guys is, can we have a look at these sitemaps? Do they need to be all compressed like that? Because I'm here and I'll need to download that as well and just keep going and going and going. And in terms of the bot, we want to make it as easy as possible for them to read and understand. So here's what that sitemap looks like. Yep, this looks absolutely fine. I think just the way in which they're presented could be a little bit easier, so there's some less steps to get to the actual information. So first things first, I'd get their sitemap sorted out. But again, when we go into Nest Away, so these guys do relatively well in terms of errors, but one of the things that jumps out to me straight away is I've run this crawl multiple times with the Semrush bot using multiple user agents, and it's only coming up with 1,000 odd pages, but I know for a fact that the site has got a lot more pages than that. Or at least there's a lot more pages in the index. Yeah, there's 16,000 pages in the index. So why is it the Semrush bot and also the Google bot, when we use Googlebot as a user agent to crawl, is struggling to start from the homepage and find all of these pages? So right away, I'm like, there's probably some sort of crawling issue. So as I know that, I'm keeping that in the back of my head for now. Let's go into statistics and see what's going on. Looks like these guys are pretty on the ball. They've probably marked up all their pages. Crawl depth is really low, so that tends to tell me they've got a bit of a flat structure. We're going to show you how to actually see what the entire site structure is in a moment. There's great. Most pages are not canonicalized. Okay, I mean, ideally we'd have self-referencing canonicals in all pages, just like in a hygiene factor. They don't use AMP at all, which isn't a massive issue as long as the site is fast. No hreflang support. So we're assuming that there's not multiple languages on here. Okay, so first things first, let's have a look in here. So what I want to do now is I want to get comfortable with this website and start to understand what's going on. So a couple of things straight away, I'm like, oh, they've got this kind of cool search bar thing here. I wonder if they've put schema in here so they can surface a search box site link, because if people are Googling their name or something close to them, it'd be great if we could get this thing here surfaced in search. So first thing I'm actually going to do is go to Nest Away. We don't have the site link search box. So for those who don't know what I'm talking about, here's a kind of similar company, and you'll notice here we've got this lovely search links search box. So ideally, first thing I'd be saying is let's just clean some of that up and add that in. It's a really nice, easy, quick win straight away. So first thing I notice here is, where's the navigation? There really isn't any until what is this? This is like footer links on footer links on footer links. Not only are they footer links, they're footer links in a slightly lighter color of gray than the background. To me, this screams over optimization. It feels like they've spoke to some sort of creative guy or some UX guy, and they're like, no, man, we got to keep the navigation clean, man, and all that, because we know that's how creatives talk 9 times out of 10. I've rolled over and said, okay, if you want a nice, clean, single navigation, that's fine. We'll just spam a bunch of links into the footer. I would say that is a bad idea. And I imagine oh god, they all changed. So for some reason they've put their main nav in the footer. Footer. I would be getting this right up here in some sort of mega nav kind of front and center. So this will obviously help you with any crawling issues that you may or may not have. But ultimately, let's just get it in the main nav. So let's start. So single boys, shared room. Will that let me search without anything? See Bangalore. Oh man. So I'm about to get really depressed looking at the prices of these flats compared to compared to London prices. Right. Cool. So this is like, we were talking about templates earlier. This is template 1. So this is like their category page before you click into individual properties. So what are we looking for here? First of all, no nav. So there's still no nav in here at all. And when I look at things like, oh, cool, actually, I'm interested in the single girls one. Oh, what do we see in this? We see these weird, super ugly URLs. I don't know if you can see that at the top with all these kind of parameters in it, these plus signs and these question marks and all that sort of stuff. So, for example, if they've got shared rooms for women in Bangalore, they're going to really struggle to rank for that term because the URL is identical to every other URL for Bangalore. I'm pretty sure that they're not going to even be indexed for that kind of version of the page. So that's the first thing I'd be looking at there. You know what I'm like? I love to have a little look at the source code and just pretend I actually know what I'm talking about. So first thing I like to look in here is, again, we talked about schema earlier. For these guys, schema markup would really, really help. So I'm going to have a quick Google around. Again, this is really the wrong way to do it, but I like to just get used to it. Let's see if they've actually done it through JSON, which I think they probably have done. Oh, they have. Amazing. So they've actually already got all of their schema. It's being injected in there perfectly. So what I want to see is, great, you've got the schema, but is it actually, I'll take the clean version of this URL, is it actually working, and do you have any errors? So is just, oh, there he is, Big Sean. Do you have any errors? So is Google actually getting in there and seeing it properly and understanding the data? So back to the structured data testing tool, run that test. It's a massive page that might take a little bit of time. We may need to come back to it because it's taking a little while. Let's come back to it. There we go. Just as I clicked out. Amazing. So they've got 468 site navigation elements. Now, this feels like a sticking plaster solution. So it feels like they knew they didn't have a navigation. They then put a bunch of weird navigation stuff in the footer. Still didn't work. So they started wrapping it in schema in order to really signal to the bot, this is our navigation, please crawl it. That feels unnecessary. But here we go, apartment stuff, amazing. So 0 errors, 0 warnings. They have absolutely nailed schema implementation. So very well done to nest away. That's absolutely great. All right, so next up, what we'd like to look at, site link search box. Yep, we've done that. Over optimized footer, we've done that as well. Crawl budget, right. So there is tons and tons and tons of pages on this site and lots of internal links going multiple places. So it looks like what they actually need to do is start no indexing a bunch of stuff and actually getting rid of all of these kind of super long tail crazy URLs. When I see stuff like that, I like to click around and just see what's happening with regards to their canonicals. So if we go back to Semrush for a moment, they're not, see, they say there is the odd broken canonical, but I mean, it's not really life-changing, is it? So what I like to do is just go back into the site. Love looking at that source code and having a little look for any canonical. We do have it. So that page is canonicalizing to itself. So the first conversation you would have with this client is, well, when we change these parameters, the content changes on the site, so it's dynamically loading, but the URLs aren't. So you're kind of giving away any potential ranking for variants of houses in Bangalore. That's something you probably want to look at. You can maybe get around it by making sure that all the variants are like no indexed, followed and no indexed, and creating separate landing pages and linking to it. I feel that's probably what they've done with all these kind of internal links and things. The inner pages. First thing we want to do here, of course, I've been going on about it constantly, is schema, making sure this is wrapped in schema, getting it validated as well, and just looking at some basics. So one of the big things that jumps out to me on this one as well is keyword mapping. So again, if we look at the titles here, rent and new Tipsandra Bangalore for men at our 120,000 rupees, house ID, blah, blah, blah. If we look at that in the engine, yeah, it kind of stops at for men. And this is multiple keywords targeting the same page. So in an ideal scenario, we'd get this remapped. And I'm pretty sure if we look at the full site, it's going to look like a big mismatch of, yeah. So a lot of this stuff feels either very similar, no brokerage. So it feels like they've went for a single keyword, then just concatenated a bunch of stuff onto it. Now, I wrote all of the metadata for a little known website called TripAdvisor back in the day when I used to work with the lovely Digitas LBI. And we'd done it programmatically. If you've got hundreds of thousands of pages, you need to do it programmatically. In this instance, I would try and work out if there's anything on this page that you can scrape and add to your title programmatically. So what's unique content on here? Well, there's 26 prime houses near Whitefields, 26 being the kind of thing that will differentiate you from everything else. So I would see if our developers can actually add some unique information into that title tag, so that it's not all the same. It would help your click-through rate. It would also help the ranking, because title tags being a direct ranking factor, descriptions being an indirect ranking factor. So these guys are doing really well. So pagination on lists is the next thing. So if we go scroll to the very, very bottom, we can see here that there is multiple lists of these properties, because they've got tons and tons of properties. So what I want to see is, are these correctly paginated? So when I click on multiples, again, I don't think the URL changes, so it's making not a lot of difference. So you can see up here, like the URL just doesn't change, but all the content does. I would need to talk to them about that and look at in their next development sprint if we can do something about that. But what I really want to see is, have they put rel next and rel previous on these pages? So when the bot hits this and goes to it, it knows that this is a chain of pages that are related to one another, not just individual pages. So we were talking about crawl budget earlier. If you can tell the bot that it is indeed paginated, then that's going to help you massively. Let me just come back to that in a second. Yeah, but if we actually look into it, none of it's actually wrapped in any sort of text. So let's just go rel equals next. 0 out of 0. So they do not have any pagination on there. So that's a really kind of nice, easy win that I would get them to have a look at. On the subject of pagination, I read a phenomenal article by Portent. Matthew Henry wrote it. It was about pagination and site click depth. And they ran an experiment that looked at changing the links in your pagination series. So instead of being like, one end or 1, 2, 3 next, the author concluded that, and it looked very ugly, so it's not really a UX solution, but adding midway points and start and finish points to your pagination can actually help it get crawled a lot more effectively. So they went from a big horrible chain of paginated pages, which I imagine this site probably has as well, to only being a couple of steps away from home, which is a much cleaner viewpoint for the crawler. So it's much more likely that those deeper pages are going to be crawled. So that's a really good one. Go look at the Portent blog. Ian Lowry runs it over there. Their content is next level. It's really, really good stuff. Okay, so next up on that particular page, HTTP and HTTPS resources. So this is a kind of major no-no. What we're seeing on the site is that some of the secure pages are linking to non-secure pages, which is not ideal. So it looks like the subdomains are actually linking. They've also got UTM source stuff coming up, not ideal. Okay, so let's go click into this and see what's going on. So this is interesting. So they've got a community subdomain. First things first, any sort of subdomain, I imagine they probably put it on a subdomain because the technology is completely different that runs this community thing, whatever it is, it'd be some sort of open software. Ideally, you want to have nestaway.com/community, because any link equity this drives into the community, you're missing out on that, because from the subdomain up to the root, it's not passing that back and forward. That's the same for blogs as well. You see a lot of people creating blog.website.com. Not ideal, because your blog is where all of your press releases are going to go, where all your kind of non-commercial content is going to go. That's where you're also going to get all your links, and the links will not pass up to the main domain, sadly. So ideally, if we can move this on to a subfolder, this is a really non-trivial thing to do. Just a quick shout out to Nick Wilsden from Vodafone. He actually, I think, kind of coined the usage of something called a reverse proxy. So what you could actually do is server level, have it still operate on your subdomain, but actually change the way in which the URLs function so that the community part is put onto a subfolder instead of the subdomain. So that's just a little point on that one. So apparently this is linking to non-secure. Let's have a look. So it's going through a Google secondary thing, then it's redirecting into the secure. Fascinating. So what I'd be doing looking at this, I'd want to get the raw crawl data out first. I'd want to see all these 301s, where they're all going to, what's going on and why they're linking to non-secure pages. And it looks like, actually, we're talking about templates again. There is a ton of stuff that we need to have a look at with regards to all of the subdomains that they're kind of dealing with. So not ideal, but in terms of like health, it's looking relatively good. Is that you, Nitin?
Hey, Ross. Yeah, apologies for interrupting, but I just wanted to remind you about the time. So we're running out of time. So can you please now quickly wrap up in, say, 2-3 minutes, and then we'll jump to the questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Right, we'll just super quick. So this is sad it's only got a couple of minutes, because this is my favorite one. This is Priya's Curry Nation. This is a personal food blog, which is built on WordPress, looking really good. So if we were to look at some of the examples here, basic. So if you're putting up a WordPress site, a couple of things you want to look at straight away. One is the pagination. Pagination being when we look at your, for example, latest posts, I imagine there is a, there we go, lots of page numbers, none of which have any pagination. So let's get that fixed. 404s are in the index, which is a bit of a bummer. So if we were to look at the error pages, we can actually see that a lot of your error pages are actually currently in the Google index. And I think I can probably just do that by super quick here. Paginated pages are in the index. This is killing your crawl budget. And also, if I'm a user and I click on that, do I really want to go to page 404 about some random recipes? No, I definitely don't. So let's get that fixed. Also, I noticed that there's a bunch of stuff that is in the index but 404, so you probably want to get that redirected. There's also a bunch of just dead content or something with just a single image or completely blank that's in the index. Let's get that out. Let's either 404 it or 410 it. 410 is a server response that says completely remove this from the index, or just delete it on your side. That would be the best thing to do. Using categories, the cardinal sin of any sort of WordPress blog is using categories as your landing pages. The reason being, especially on WordPress, unless you're going to hack the way it works, this particular category, there's no place to change any of the meta, so I can't turn this into, you know, desserts recipes inside of the title. I also can't put any other content here. This is just a list. This is kind of pointless. So please don't do that. Create separate pages where you can control the content, the H1s and the titles. Next up, Hindi language. So this person is putting in a ton of work to this. It's all in Hindi as well. It's phenomenal. I can barely speak English. It's a subdomain. Don't put it as a subdomain. Again, we want that to be, I don't know what the country code is for Hindi, but imagine me IN, it might be HI. I would Google that to just check what the country code is, and I'd have all your Hindi content on there with your href lang markup, either in the sitemap or indeed in the header. All right, final thing, Nitin, and then I will shut up. Source gaps. So all of the pages you've got on the website and on the sitemap, they don't show up in the index. That means your site's not being crawled properly. You're missing out on traffic. Plus, when we look at, again, I love this. So this is kind of new feature from Semrush, I think. They now have all of the AMP issues in there as well. So I love that. That's really, really nice. So it looks like they've probably used some sort of plugin to try and generate AMP, but it's not working. Just a quick one. If you were looking to work out if your AMP page is actually working, there is an AMP validator, which you should run through like this. It's the last thing I'm going to say. Sorry, it does not validate. So use the validator.ampproject.org to validate all your AMP pages as well. And that's everything from me.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing interesting stuff, Ross. So I was really enjoying it. I didn't realize we took 40 minutes for it. But yeah, it was amazing. Thank you so much for that. All right.
You're
So
welcome.
now, without wasting any time, I think we should jump to the questions because we have a lot of them and we have very limited time left. So first question is from Govind Bhatt. The question is, if a website has hundreds of reviews, then to show on a same product page, which won't look good, what do you suggest?
So am I right in thinking that you've got hundreds of reviews and you're showing your website total reviews on every product page?
Yeah, that's right. That's what I understood as well.
Yeah, don't do that.
From this question. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that the person asking the question knows what to do already. If you're asking the question, then you already know the answer. The answer is don't do that. The reason being, like, A, it's not going to show up in featured snippets at all, because Google's smart enough to know that these are for the entire site, not individual products. So I would look at getting that fixed.
All right. Thank you so much for answering that. And then moving to the next question, which is from Sumit Gupta. The question is, if your website hasn't performed well in past and you revamped the site from product, deals, offers to coupons, and it is still not performing well. So is old performance still a ranking factor for this website?
Is
So
old performance
you got
a
the
ranking
question?
factor for the website?
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're looking at kind of SEO minutia here. Old performance isn't necessarily a ranking factor, but things that have come before maybe. So if you've bought the domain from an auction and not fresh, there might be some stuff from back in the day that's kind of still connected to it. So some dodgy links maybe, or perhaps it's a completely different website with a completely different, maybe you've just picked a generic kind of name and it was a completely different thing. So yeah, it can absolutely be an indicator and kind of negatively affect it. That being said, like over time, does the person say how long they've been doing it for? Is it like a couple of weeks, couple of months, years? Do they say anything?
No, nothing.
It sounds like they're maybe just jumping the gun. So start sending more signals if it's a new topic. So if you're saying it's products and deals, schema markup. So there's an offers schema that I would definitely put on there. Getting links from sources that are in your locale that are related to it. Basics like good keyword mapping, things of that nature. And also if it's a deals thing, I imagine you're pulling in thousands of deals. Chop it down. Having tens of thousands of pages on your site with a low base of links is actually a terrible idea. So chop out some of those pages and see if that helps performance. Would be my kind of first look.
Cool. Thank you so much. That was such a nice answer to this question, I would say. Well, moving to the next one, which is from Ronit Tam Tamrakar. And the question is, so basically this person wants to understand pages versus posts. So what do you recommend? So, I mean, from Google, from SEO perspective, what do you think, pages versus posts? Tricky
God, that's
question.
such a broad,
Yeah,
yeah, it's such a broad
very
question.
abstract. Yeah.
So let me break down what the difference may or may not be. So the real answer is it doesn't really matter. But if we look at a page is not date stamped typically. A post is date stamped. So we've got a part of the algorithm which is QDF, which stands for query deserves freshness, which may bias your page to the top of the search engine for a period of time if it's indicated, if it's flagged as QDF. So in that instance, post might actually be a good thing. There's been a bunch of studies, if you Google around, where I've not personally tried it. I'm not a headline reader, so I'm not saying that this works or doesn't work, because if I've not tested myself, that's not my advice. But people actually remove the dates from a lot of old blog posts and you find them jumping up, or some people actually update the blog post consistently. So here's a great example. We have a publishing client with us. So they're the biggest Facebook page in the world. So they get some pretty special traffic, about 80 to 100 million people every month. And what we've seen is, to help their organic, is if you've got, let's say, a topic, let's say the royal wedding, because that's a thing in the UK that everyone cares about. If you actually update that content on the post, not on the page, over time, it stays at the top. So every time fresh news happens about something, update it and it stays at the top. That's a post. Page, that doesn't happen as much. So that's the only two things I would use to differentiate those things.
All right, that sounds good. All right, so well, the next question is from a very good friend, a very our very famous SEO colleague, you can say, Craig Campbell. And the question is for you, Ross. Specifically, he's mentioned that question is for Ross. So, on the Nestway website, you said they have no navigation at all. So, how much of an impact do you think that Google that it has on Google indexing these pages?
So, I mean, looking at the great question, and thank you, Craig, for asking the questions. I'm waiting for Craig to send me some sort of wind up, because I tend to wind him up every opportunity I get. It's a Glasgow thing. So it looks like it's not actually having a major impact. So if you look at the pages that are indexed, it doesn't look like it's having an impact on them. Now, I can't see their search console, and I've literally spent 20 minutes just browsing it. Usually, if they don't have a navigation, that is a massive, massive, massive problem. And the fact that it's in the footer as well, it just feels like a wee bit spammy. So there's the potential of over optimization as well. So yeah, the nav is just so, so important. So I would seriously look at that. Now, what they've set up there, if you think of a proper linking structure, it should kind of be tiered like a triangle, right? Especially with that. So it should be like homepage, category page, then product page, and it should flow through it like that. But if the way they've set it up is actually homepage, product straight away, so it's a completely flat structure. So in terms of Googlebot getting to that, it's going to be really challenging, because it's going home category, it's going home product, not to category. So to get back to the other category page, it needs to circle back to home again. So they will definitely have some crawling problems and indexation problems, because they don't have a proper nav. There's only so many sticking plasters you can add to a site with tricks in the footer and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, as a core thing to get fixed, that would be the first thing we would look at, is a proper nav.
All right, cool. Thank you so much for answering that. Now, because we're left with only 6 minutes, so I am going to club two questions which are related to pop-up. So one is from Arun Srinivas, another one is from Gaurav Joshi. So the question is, what is the best way to use pop-up and collect details from the user? So Gaurav mentioned a case where there is a website uh, which is getting like 60% of the total leads from model window, and rest 40% comes from regular leads. So what do you recommend here to, you know, optimize on leads and window here, pop-up window?
I mean, if you're getting 60% of your leads from a pop-up window, I would say keep doing it because that sounds like it's definitely working. So this is the thing in SEO, like we get really caught up with, oh, if this is going to, damage or if this is going to hurt rankings, blah, blah, blah. But as the business owner, if you're getting 60% of your leads through, a slightly intrusive mobile interstitial, Jesus, keep going. I mean, you might lose some traffic, but does it matter in the grand scheme of things? Because the whole point is to get leads. That being said, if you want to be a little bit kind of more clever with it, what I'd recommend is looking at things that integrate a kind of messenger function into the site. There's a great company called Get Squared, who actually allow you to have it plugs into your analytics, and as soon as someone types something, it maps it to analytics, so it's full user journey. So even if they don't complete on talking to you or giving you details, you've got a bunch of information you can retarget them on later. So smarter pop-ups. So if people show intent to give you information, you should be able to this is not SEO, this is now paid, but you should be able to retarget them based on their intent. Another one is Unbounce have just released this kind of sticky bar thing, which kind of sits at the top. That might be a good shout as well. So it's just constantly there. So maybe when the page breaks below, say 50%, which shows they're kind of really interested in the content, have a sticky bar at the top instead of a kind of pop-up that just says add your name in here. Another one that no one actually tries is, in ads, we will flip the ad creative so that you don't get something called ad fatigue. So if you show a customer the same ad 10 times, they're just going to get banner blindness and stop looking at it. We don't do that with our pop-ups. Why aren't you should get like a different thing. So maybe like a different call to action, a different offer. Maybe it's download this ebook. Maybe it's download Craig Campbell's nude calendar 2018. Like all of these things could make people click more and give their email address. So try rotating your creative on the pop-up and try a sticky bar.
Thank you so much. Craig, did you hear that example? Well, that was awesome. All right. So moving to the next question. Again, I'm going to club two questions because that's the last question we're going to pick for today. And the question is from Tom Livingstone and Luke Kennedy. And the question is about crawl budget. That how do you check how much crawl budget Google has assigned to your website? Yeah. Tricky one
Oh,
again.
that is a question. Yeah. You don't. I mean, so there's no number. Like it's not like you look at your bank account. It's like, oh yeah, I've got 10 pence today, so I'm gonna be eating porridge for the rest of the week. There's no like defined number, but you can see the rate at which they're crawling the site over time in Search Console. So if you go into crawl and then crawl stats inside the Search Console, you'll see those numbers. There's three kind of main blocks of graphs, which will look at this. I think it's the speed at which they're downloading it, how many kilobytes they're downloading each time they go, and how many pages they're physically visiting. Ideally, if it's a new site, you want that to be going up over time. If it's a massive site, you want it to stay kind of as flat as possible, or showing like slight increase over time. So yeah, Search Console would sort you out there.
Yeah, I think I would like to add something here because I did an experiment on this in the past. So probably Search Console is a tool that you can, of course, rely on. And another thing you can do is you can actually take a look at your logs and then understand. So you can actually, log all the entries from Googlebot, and then you can also, along with the total number of hits you're getting from Googlebot in a day, and then you can also see like different levels. For example, Google is hitting your website level 1 say 1,000 times a day, but level 2 is say 570 times, and level 3 is 6 say 200 times or something. So you can actually check on that as well. But beware, when Google
Great
hits your
advice.
website, yeah, when Google hits your website, then it's not always Googlebot in the user agent. So Google sometimes changes bot, because when you see on Search Console as well, when you fetch as Google, so you see two different views, one as Googlebot and one as normal user agent. So beware, the number you are seeing is just for Googlebot, and probably Google is hitting you with other user agents as well. So this is just a number to get an estimate on crawl budget, very rough estimate, but yeah, it's not an accurate number. And Google Search Console is another tool that you have, of course. All right.
I love that.
So
That separates the men from the boys. Log file analysis is all the hardcore SEOs doing that. Very good advice.
yeah. All right. Thank you so much. All right, guys. So we still have a lot of questions, and apologies, we are not able to go, pick those questions because of time constraints. But you can reach out to me or Ross anytime on Twitter or LinkedIn, or maybe Ross. Ross, what's your preferred communication channel where people can reach you with their questions if their questions are unanswered here?
Postcards. No. Twitter at
All right.
at rtabs at rtabs
All
on
right.
Twitter, or just Google me and I'll probably show up.
All right, all right, cool. So yeah, you can basically reach out to me or Ross with the questions, and we'll be more than happy to answer your questions. And before say goodbye to this amazing session, I would like to inform you all about a very very nice online conference which is happening on 22nd of February. So this is called DTD conference, which is organized by Semrush, and there are a lot of amazing speakers will be talking on this day. So and it's free registration, so you can save your spot right now. The URL is dtdconference.com. So register right now and block your calendar, and it's going to be awesome, trust me. And you can thank me later, of course. And yeah, that's it from our side. So before we say goodbye, I would like to hear Ross, like, one final takeaway for the day.
One final takeaway for the day. I would say that tech auditing is incredibly important, and it's probably the first thing that you should be doing across the site. Also, it's not a one-off job. It's something you should be doing realistically. So just you rank check every day. I would be interested to hear who crawls our client sites on a daily basis. You want to have backups, because if something goes wrong, you want an immediate something there that you can refer to. So be looking at things like daily crawls. Sounds mental, but you never know when you need the data. But to completely juxtapose to that, it's not, when you're dealing with clients, it's not all about the SEO all of the time. I mean, it really is, but like the guy with the leads, for example, think commercially and think about the easiest things to do with your client and their teams as well. That would be my two major takeaways.
Cool. Thank you so much, Ross, for that and sharing a lot of interesting tips with everyone here. I hope everyone enjoyed the tips. And thank you so much, everyone, once again for joining us. And have a good day. Thank you so much. Bye bye.